It's DJ Ekin, Tampa's most connected DJ. If you are watching me on YouTube, which I hope you are, then you see that I am not alone today. And co-host aside and all that other good stuff, today might be one of my most intriguing conversations. And it's funny because it follows my entrance into the female group chat. And I am happy to have on the pod today Miss Isabella Mise. Make sure I got that part right. She is from Toronto, Canada, and she is the communications director for Ashley Madison. We will get into all of that, but first off, how are you?
Wonderful. Summer is finally upon us. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's do this then. Let's start with something since you mentioned summer, right? I'm from New York, but I live in Florida now, which it seems like it's always summer. What is the summer like in Toronto? And I would be amiss if I didn't get into something else. But let's start with what's the summer like in Toronto?
So far, it's been a bit rainy. We had a rainy spring, but typically it's hot. And we only have a few months a year that are really, really hot. So people like to get out. It's very social. There's lots to do in our city. It's a great time to visit. But yeah, people, especially post-pandemic, are very eager just to get out of the house, have fun, go to a patio, watch a sports game. So it's a lot. It's very alive, the city, especially in the summer.
Miss Carolina Calix has joined the pod, which is something that I am super happy about. As we continue this conversation with Miss Isabella Mise, what I wanted to ask you before we get into the Ashley Madison thing, which is a big talk that I want to have with you, I want to Toronto. Three things that I want to ask you. Well, about three things, and I want to ask you if you had to give up one when it comes to Toronto, when it comes to Canada, which one would you give up? Would you give up hockey, Justin Bieber, or Drake?
I'm gonna go. This is gonna be a really unpopular opinion. I'm gonna give up hockey. I'm not a big sports fan.
I would too.
I'm a big music fan, so I would say, yeah. My coworker's not gonna like that answer because they are big sports fans, but I'm probably I'm gonna go with our famed musicians.
Forget your coworkers. I am now a fan of yours because I would have picked the same thing. I'm like Justin Bieber and Drake. Forget hockey.
How important has Drake been to Toronto? I mean, I can't lie. Like the dude, honestly, from what I know about Toronto, I've been there once, but the way he put the city on his back and the way he talks about it, what does he mean to like someone from there like yourself, though?
Yeah, I think he's been fantastic for our city, and it's just been great. And I think having someone that incorporates so much of our city into his music, right? Obviously, he's very proud Canadian, and makes that really clear. But I think just hearing so much about our city in the art that he creates, in the music, is really a huge source of pride for our city.
Have you seen that change? Like, have you seen it get more, packed, more people moving in? What are the changes that you see there in Toronto? Like
I mean, again, the pandemic last few years haven't really felt the same, just because I think so many people sort of left Toronto during the pandemic. So it's sort of just now that the city sort of feels like it's alive again, and obviously the summer is here. But I think prior to that, definitely, I think he put Toronto on the map in so many ways. It's already a world-class city, but I think, again, just in terms of pop culture, I think he really put the city on the map. Even for sports, like the Toronto Raptors, he, really, I think, drummed up a lot of the pride around our sports team and sports, in general in the city. And I just think, again, he's always in Toronto. It's great.
Drizzy. We are here today.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, well,
yeah, Justin Bieber.
Yeah, because when she mentioned Raptors, I'm not a hockey person, but the first thing that I thought about was he did their most recent jersey, didn't he?
You're talking about Justin?
Yeah, Justin Bieber. I believe he collaborated with them, and he did the Raptors, like a collaboration of their jersey, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, so Raptors are a basketball team, and then the Toronto Maple Leafs are
There it is. Bam, the Maple Leafs. Thank you. This is how much I love sports.
Yeah.
How much I love hockey.
But no, they're both great for Canada and great for the city. So yeah, we love them.
Well, let's talk about the other thing that you have going on. And I'm not sure if this is based in Canada, but you are the communications director for Ashley Madison. The first thing I'd like to get out there so that it's very clear, what exactly is Ashley Madison? For those who don't know, have never heard of it, know anything about it, before we go anywhere else, what is it exactly?
Yeah. So we are a married dating website, first and foremost. So it was started back in 2002. So yeah, we're just turning 21, I guess. And it was really born out of this idea that at the time, about 30% of people on singles dating sites were actually married. And so the founders of the site, basically said, why not create a place where people who are married and interested in dating can actually be transparent rather than pretend to be single on a singles dating site. Actually go to a place where they can be transparent about being married and what they're looking for, what they want. And really our core audience, was started as, married seeking married. So you're, someone who's married that isn't really looking typically to leave your marriage or your situation, but you are looking to outsource certain needs that you're not getting. But when you meet someone who's also in a similar situation, so also married and looking for something else that they're not getting, then you sort of create this equal footing, right? You're on the same page, you're looking for the same thing, and you both have some skin in the game. You're each sort of, again, looking for the same outcome.
I thought you might jump in, Carolina, because my next thing is
I have a lot because I have a lot of questions, but I'm gonna let you kick it off.
Yeah.
And it's evolved, right? It's evolved over the years, just like I think the concept and the discussions around monogamy and non-monogamy have evolved since 2002, right? So I think originally that's really how the site came to be. But I think, now, and I joined in 2017, there's a lot of people that join the site with their partners' knowledge. There's a lot of couples on our site. There's a lot of people in open marriages. There's people that are in don't ask, don't tell situations, monogamish. There's so many different ways to carry out relationships now that I definitely think that audience evolved, right? And sort of grew up with the website.
Right. But you have to be you have to be married to join the site. Is that a requirement?
No. So I would say our core constituency is still married people. But you can be single. And there are a lot of people, again, that are in more of a transition stage. So they might be going through a divorce, but they don't want to go on a single site yet because they might be still sort of in the midst of a divorce. And so maybe they're not looking for a traditional relationship yet. They're looking for something sort of in between. People, again, that are separated, people that are in open relationships. So you don't have to necessarily be in a traditional, marriage, so to speak, to join the site. There are a variety of different.
Now, you said that you joined in 2017. Is that before you?
Sorry, I mean the company.
Okay. Because I wanted to clear. I didn't. Like I said again, I'm going for clarification before I get into all these other things that I'm sure are on Carolina's mind. I'm going for strictly clarification in the beginning. Okay, so you joined as
Yeah, fair clarification. I joined the communications team at Ashley Madison in 2017. So
okay.
I would say at the point in which I joined, yeah, you can definitely, even since then, right, I've seen an evolution in our membership. And a big part of what I do since day one has been speaking to our members. That was, I think, my best education into what Ashley Madison was all about, right? Yeah. I want to speak to people using the site. I want to get a sense of what they're all about and what motivated them to join a married dating site and what maybe they're not getting at home. So I have had so many conversations. I've been so lucky to actually get to have people share these personal details about their life, right, with me. But yeah, I would say that I've seen that evolution in our membership over the years. So a lot more people sort of steering away from traditionally monogamous relationships. And I do have to say, I think when the pandemic hit, that was a real test for relationships. And I think a lot of couples either thrived or sort of found that if there were those existing issues in the relationship, it sort of widened those issues and made them sort of widened that gap in the relationship even further, because marriage was really never meant to be 24/7 lockdown. Now kids at home, homeschooling 24/7, no real relief, right? So I think we saw a surge in our membership.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you see a surge within that time? And like also with the evolution of all these relationships, how many, I'm assuming you talk to every member, how many open relationships or how many polyamorous relationships are actually coming onto the sites versus before the lockdown?
It's hard to give an exact number, but anecdotally, I could say there are a lot of people who use the pandemic as sort of an opportunity to redefine their monogamy agreement. And I think it just, I think again, like it was a bit of a pressure cooker, and it's not like you're necessarily, questioning if you're with the right person, but it's almost you're questioning if monogamy makes sense anymore. So that's what I mean when I say people aren't necessarily looking to leave their relationship, because they're not convinced that, being with someone else permanently long-term is the answer either. They sort of are aware now that they'd run into those same hiccups, I think. So they're more looking to really ground themselves in a primary partnership and then outsource their needs based on that primary partnership. If that,
I'm not sure where I'm not sure where the finger snap came in at, but I'm sensing it's about to get interesting here. Let me back up a little bit with you and your position, right? Because again, I'm a guy. I'm blamed for being a certain way because I'm a guy, and men are who we are now, at least by perception, anyway. Your thoughts on marriage before you took this gig, were they the same as they are now, or like before you took this gig? Like me, like. I am very much, and Carolina and I have talked about this, right? I'm very much in this entertainment thing. And I almost am, I'm not even surprised no more by the stuff I see when I'm out or on the road or that type of thing when I'm in the middle of this, right? You're in the middle of this site that is kind of like, hey, this is a spot. This is a spot that we cater to this lifestyle, right? But what I'd like to know is, like, before you took this gig, or have you always thought that, hey, maybe this is how marriages need to be to last? Or did you before you took this gig, were you like, when I find my forever person, because I've heard that a lot, when I find my person, me and this person, this is who I'm going to be with, whether they were a high school sweetheart or wherever they are, this is my person. I don't want anybody else. Mm-hmm. Was that your thought process before? If it was, has it changed? Or have you had this Ashley Madison kind of thought process on what you think maybe how marriages winds up being?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I would say I've always been a hopeless romantic. My parents have been together since they were 14 and they're still happily married. I have lots of friends who are married. I believe in the grand ambition of love, all of that. I would say that when I joined Ashley Madison, I was intrigued. I thought it was interesting. I thought, from a career perspective, this would be a really cool challenge. I work in marketing and comms, and like, what better challenge? Because like you said, there are so many people that really, it's tough to root for this brand, right? There are a lot of people that don't agree with it, right? So I saw that as a challenge, both for my own understanding and thinking, but also just in terms of what I do. So I said, for me, the only way I can do this and really do it well, I think, is to get to know the people using the site. Because I said, if I can really get to the heart of who's on the site and why they're here and how a site like Ashley Madison is helping them and increasing their happiness and all of that, then I can work with that. I can go from that jumping off point and then dig a bit deeper, right? So from that, I've worked with a ton of sociologists and psychologists and academics who study this. And I just became a student of the topic of monogamy in relationships. And so, of course, I would say my view on marriage and long-term partnership has changed slightly in that I don't think it's easy. I don't think, I don't think monogamy is for everyone. I think we're made to believe that that is the only way. You meet someone, you get married, you have kids, and you stay with them forever. I don't think that model works for everyone anymore. And I think it works for far less people than I originally might have thought. And I think when I think of my own life, like I said, I'm not married, but I would still like to get married. I'm still looking for that lifelong partner. I still believe that monogamy works for me. But I no longer judge or, shame people that maybe it doesn't work so naturally for, or maybe they've put 20 years into a marriage and, hit that point where maybe they're struggling with it. I think that people evolve, and sometimes people grow together. Sometimes people grow in different directions. And I don't think divorce is always as simple and easy as people think it is, right? I think sometimes there is other options, and whether that is a couple opening up their relationship together and being open in that way, or whether it's someone exploring
Is there a certain like year that this kind of happens? Because I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but the 7-year itch is usually that turning point in a lot of relationships where it gets reevaluated. Are we for each other? Is there a certain timestamp that you see that, people start seeking out websites like, Madison?
Yeah.
7 months. My bad. You wasn't talking to me. My bad. It's questions for you, Isabella. My bad.
Yeah. I think the 7-year itch is sort of a saying for a reason. I think there is a lot of truth to that. Okay. We actually did a study called the Good Wife Study a few years back, and we asked the women of Ashley Madison to respond to a series of questions, and that was one of them. And so that was the most popular slot for when they considered stepping outside their relationship. So I do think there's some truth to that. I think also when you start introducing kids, oftentimes couples, the relationship goes from being just about two people to now growing a family. And I think sometimes that presents a challenge for a lot of relationships. But I would say most commonly that 7-year.
So it is true. It
is true. Absolutely. And we've done studies before where, milestone birthdays are really big for people considering. So people tend, 29, 39, 49, 59. Those years are where people are often sort of questioning their life choices, questioning their decisions. And again, I say it again, the pandemic has been big. A lot of people have become introspective because of the pandemic, sort of questioning, is this the life that I want? Is this what makes me happy? So I think that has also sparked a lot of change in relationships.
I know we talk about the pandemic being a big deal, and I can honestly, not relationship wise, but agree with that to an extent of even like my career and the things that I do. So I kind of get where that comes into this. One of the things I like to ask though too is we talk about, and I've talked about this too, like grandparents and stuff like that, right? Where you hear about, oh, my grandparents been together for 25, 35 years, right? And oh my God, relationship goals. But it also seems like too nowadays, like we give up on things. And I say we because I'm a part of this generation, right? We give up on things a lot quicker. And do you think, or have you guys found in your research that that's because maybe they feel like there's so many other options out there, whether it be like what they see on social media, like Instagram, or a dating website like the ones that you guys have at Ashley Madison? Do you think that has a lot to play into how people give up on their relationships, or go and be like, you know what, maybe there are better options over here instead of working on what they have at home? Like we, because our grandparents, they didn't have it easy either, but they also didn't have a computer that could give them the world in their back pocket like we do now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can't deny technology has played a role, right? Just in terms of being aware of options. But I still don't think that it can convince people who are fully satisfied necessarily to, make that type of decision. I will say though, when we think of generational gaps, so when you look at something like divorce in, let's say, our grandparents' generation, there was a lot more shame around divorce. So people oftentimes would turn a blind eye to things like infidelity because they didn't want to be judged for going through a divorce, because divorce was the thing. It was more acceptable to turn a blind eye to something like infidelity than it would have been to have go through a divorce. I think that's totally shifted, right? People have divorce parties nowadays. Now there's actually a lot more shame if you stay with someone after they've cheated on you. And that's a total cultural shift, right? I think had our grandparents' generation, been that way, we would have seen that behavior modeled that, right? So I do think there's a cultural evolution, that sort of social script that we tend to follow around things like that. So it's not that it wasn't happening back then. It's that people were a lot more hush hush about it. And again, people just sort of, I think, tend to turn a blind eye. So I would just say that that's also, worth bringing into the discussion. But of course, technology has given us more access. That does play a role. And even, even just in singles dating, right? There's just so many options that people, just always think that there, is another person around the corner. So
you guys do
that cultural.
Go ahead, Carolina.
Yeah, with that cultural shift, I definitely wanted to ask you. Usually, the men are considered the bigger cheaters.
Do you see where this just suddenly took a turn? Is it just me, or did this suddenly take a turn?
Usually, okay. Through all your research at Ashley Madison, have you found a shift that maybe women are being more? Or what is that balance there? How many women versus men seek out sites like Ashley Madison to look out for that extra relationship outside of their own?
Yeah. And that's, again, a really important point you're touching on. And I think that in terms of me joining Ashley Madison, the company, in 2017, and in terms of what I've learned, like, I had my own misconceptions when I took on this job, right? It just, again, what we learn about in movies, everything we learn about infidelity, I sort of held those same beliefs. And I did tend to think it was more of a male dominant behavior. I think, like most people do. But that's absolutely a misconception.
Hold please. City boys, we up. City boys, we up. Hold on, city boys, we up. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Are you saying that women cheat just as much as men? Is that what? Please tell me. I just want some clarity here. I just need you to say it. I don't want you to miss you making your point. I know I'm celebrating way too much at the moment, but I'd like to know: are women cheating just as much, if not more, than men?
They are.
I feel.
What? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Isabella. Please go on with your point, please. I am so sorry. Let me calm it down over here.
You just gave him so much ammo right now.
Let me calm down, Isabella. My apologies, Isabella, for interrupting you. Please go on.
So yeah, I will say it again. Women are cheating just as much, if not more, than men. We do an annual report every year where we release sort of our sign-up numbers and our ratio of men and women on the site. So it's a pretty balanced community. But in some places, so we're global, right? So in some places like Brazil, for example, it actually is almost twice the amount of women as men on the site. So we look at it globally, but then we actually break down different markets. And there are places in different countries around the world that actually do have almost double the amount of women on the site. So that's worth noting. And I think that there's a stat that was released a couple years back that said, female infidelity has risen by about 40% since the early 90s, where male infidelity has remained pretty much the same. And the question is, are women cheating more now? Or is it that they're just more comfortable talking about it? Because historically, women it can't be argued, women have been judged more harshly and historically have faced more consequences for infidelity. So, I think that
I am very glad that you are here, but I feel like like, is it me, Jason, or you're listening to this, right? I just feel like she laid it out nice and smooth so that the women could feel good. You know, I don't know if the women are actually cheating more, but the women will talk about it. They'll lay it out there. Whereas guys are back, we probably cheating more. That's what it sounds like to me. Like men are cheating more. We just don't tell it, so y'all ain't got the data.
No, but I will say women have become more sexually empowered. They are more comfortable, not settling if they're not getting what they need in a relationship. They're more comfortable talking about sex and talking about orgasms. I mean, this is something, again, that this is a shift. This is not something that was always the case. And I think that, there has been a ton of research. I mean, we work with a woman, Dr. Alicia Walker, and she did 2 separate studies, one on the female members of Ashley Madison, one on the male members of our site. And in her first book, which was The Secret Life of the Cheating Wife, she found that women primarily were cheating for sex. So they were otherwise very happy with what they were getting in their primary relationship, but were not happy with their sex life. So they were either not having enough of it, or they weren't having the kind of sex they wanted. So not enough orgasms. Their partner wasn't, pleasuring them the way they wanted. And so they were very pragmatic and very specific about what they were looking to get out of their time on Ashley Madison. And that was primarily sex.
Right.
And
is that an option in Ashley Madison where you can actually opt what it is that you're looking for? Or is it just once you get to know the person, that's how you
look who wants to know the particulars.
Listen, ma'am.
Make your intentions clear and how you create your bio. And so some people choose, again, to put it all out there, whereas other people will wait till they're actually having conversations to sort of disclose what they're looking for. But yes, for the most part, there's definitely an option to lay out what you are looking for. And so, yeah, she found, again, the women were largely looking for sex. Now, the men in her study, so she wrote another book called Chasing Masculinity. They were actually, it's not that they weren't looking for sex, that was definitely part of it, but they were, much more focused on getting emotional needs met. So feeling desired, feeling appreciated, feeling wanted. And that was something that they just really weren't getting as much in their primary relationship. So
like men, baby cars.
We just look.
Exactly like men.
You could just look. We just want somebody to hold us. That's all. We just want somebody to hold us.
It does really flip that script, right? You think and
that's
again, there is a misconception that monogamy is easier for women than it is for men. That's just, again, in fact, not true. Women actually tend to get bored in long-term monogamous relationships much more quickly than men, but that will present itself as a lack of an interest in sex. And so men will say, oh, my wife doesn't want to have sex anymore. And it's not that she doesn't want to have sex anymore. It's just she's lost interest in sex with her primary partner. And so she goes out and has affairs, and all of a sudden she's going, wait a second, I do like sex. I do, but she wants that novelty. And she's so she's not, again, there's this sort of sexual reawakening that happens when she's having extramarital sex that, in fact, that she does like sex. And so I think that there are a lot of misconceptions around men and women and why they cheat and, sexuality and all of that I think, again, is really more and more is coming to light. And there is a lot more research being done on this.
So basically what I'm getting out of this is, fellas, choke your woman at home, because she gonna go out and look for it. I'm just saying. I'm sorry. And honestly, I make a lot of jokes here, but I will say this, and to give women all their flowers. One thing I've found out is that I do believe that you guys tell us the truth way more upfront than a dude will tell you. I just feel like when I meet chicks, they'll be like, yeah, I got a boyfriend, because they feel like you ain't going to change what you want to do regardless. They'll be like, I got a man. Now, it's up to her to decide if she wants to step out on that. But I think that chicks tell us the truth way more than we tell them, because we going to just act like we act regardless. And we'll be over here like, nah, I ain't seeing nobody. But meanwhile, we got a wife and 3 kids at home, and we just out here like it ain't going to be found on Facebook or nothing else. You guys did a study between June 2021 and September 2021. So that's right when the pandemic was, I guess, on its way out, right? Because the pandemic was most of 20, right?
Yeah, they dubbed last summer hot back summer.
Well, in Florida, we were fighting over hot girl summer and city boy summer. So it's like a little bit different down here. We were kind of like fighting over that. You know, every time something happened online, it was like city boys, we up 5,000 points, hot girls, you up 2,000 points. It was something like that. But first of all, Miss Carolina, let me give you give you a round of applause that Miami is number 2. Okay, let me just go ahead and give you a round of applause that Miami is number 2.
Jump from the top spot. They were number 1 last year, so actually they were.
So we dropped this year. What do you think was that change?
I'll be the one to break it to you, but you dropped. Yeah, it dropped. So Orlando's the top spot this year.
Okay.
So Orlando and Miami, though, they consistently battle for a spot.
Oh, look at us, a rivalry of infidelity.
Yeah. And then Tampa was 9 on the list.
Look, don't
I
go.
was
Look.
really surprised about that. I'm going to say, by the way, because Tampa is like squashed right in the middle of Miami and Orlando. So I would think that they would be like number 3.
No, what we do here in Tampa is move out of the way of all of your infidelity. We let y'all go right down to Miami and right back up to Orlando. That's how we get out of the way. Now, this study, though, is it just really about, it comes from people who sign up for Ashley Madison, or was there a deeper thought into what went with this list right here?
No, so for this list, it's based on signups. So we look at signup data from the year prior.
I'm going to be very honest and ask you a question. Do you think that down here in the South, it's like more easy to cheat because of our weather?
I mean, I don't know. I think weather, we always say, you know, again, in colder climates when the summer hits, people, you know, clothes are coming off, people are feeling sexy, inhibitions are lowered. So I think the fact that places like Miami are warm all year round, I think it could play a part. So Florida specifically, I mean, like I said, it's a hot spot for infidelity. Miami and Orlando continuously battle for the top spot. And it just in general, Floridian cities consistently make the top 5 every year, without question. So there is something to be said about that, I think, for sure. But also, again, there's nightlife. You know, Miami and places like, you know, a lot of places in Florida are known for their nightlife. It's known to be a destination for fun. And I think things like, you know, Florida has seen a spike in divorce since the pandemic, which we talked about earlier, right? So I think a lot of relationships, you know, sort of went through that pressure cooker during COVID. And again, people were looking to outsource, right? So I wouldn't say it's surprising to see Florida rank the way it did this year. It's pretty consistent with what we.
For those who haven't seen this list, I'm going to just go from 20 to 1, and then I'm going to tell you what surprised me about this list when I saw it. Number 20, Portland, Maine. 19, Colorado Springs. 18, Anchorage, Alaska, which we're not surprised that made the list because it's like, really, what else do you do in Alaska? But I don't know. Number 17 is Cleveland. 16 is Denver. 15, Jacksonville, North Carolina. 14, Pittsburgh. 13, Spokane, Washington. 12, Buffalo, New York. 11, Richmond, Virginia. 10, Minneapolis. Tampa is 9. St. Paul, Minnesota is 8. St. Louis is 7. Boise, Idaho is 6. Cincinnati, Ohio is 5. Vegas is 4. Kind of surprising. Atlanta is 3. Miami is 2. Orlando is 1. What surprised me, though, is the top 2 markets in the country, New York City and Los Angeles, California. They did not make the top 20. Did that surprise anybody on your side of the fence?
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at weather, right, Los Angeles, you can make the argument they have weather all the time, right? So, and again, Florida is consistently there, and we don't see that same representation with LA. New York, I mean, I think people tend to think that because it's a big city that it's definitely going to be there, but we look at per capita. So we're looking at signups per capita. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're a big city, you're going to be on there. Because then the list would just be big cities, right? So we do rank it in that way to make it an accurate portrayal. So yeah, I do think Los Angeles surprised me more than New York.
When you talk about the pandemic and how there was like a spike in signups and people, you know, looking for this type of thing in your surveys, and I don't know if you guys have done this survey, did a lot of people say that they wanted to end it when the pandemic was over, or they want to go further or continue it, or what? Have you guys done research to examine that?
Yeah, so we also did a report called Love Beyond Lockdown, which was essentially a report on navigating marriage and infidelity through the pandemic.
I just want to give you a round of applause. I just want to give you a round of applause on those names you guys keep coming up with in there. Love Beyond Lockdown. Like these. If I make an album, I'm calling you. I'm gonna be like, hey, can you help name my album, please? Love Beyond Lockdown.
I would love that. No, but I think it's a great question. I think it's an important distinction to make when we talk about affairs that happened during the pandemic, because a lot of these affairs were cyber affairs. So people weren't necessarily obviously meeting their affair partner in person, right? As we know, depending on where you live, there was so many restrictions. Now, some people still did it anyway. But for a lot of people, their pandemic affairs were chatting, were just talking to someone. So I think for some people, when the restrictions started to lift, that was actually an opportunity to meet that person if they wanted to in person. But for some people, really, the chatting, and I will say this is also another distinction with men versus women. A lot of the men too are okay sometimes just with the chatting, right? That scratches the itch, right? Of getting that validation, that connection and that emotional piece that they're lacking. So during the pandemic, I think for a lot of people, they just wanted to connect with someone. They wanted some kind of a break, or from the chaos that was happening in their house, right? It was really, I think, uncertain as to what was going to happen. And in those periods of stress, there's typically two types of personalities. There's nesters and seekers. So your nesters are going to be the type of people that just want to stay under the blankets and watch Netflix all day and like just be very cozy and not think about the outside world. The seekers are the people that are going to go outside of their house, like sort of think of the people that are online shopping and getting deliveries every day. They're the people that want to seek that comfort from outside of their house. So those are probably going to be the people that are looking to connect with people online, right? They want some sort of distraction from, again, outside their house, versus people, again, the nesters that are going to want to just really stay safe, stay cozy, not talk to a whole lot of people. That's their comfort, right? So I think there are different personalities, and that report that we did really did sort of break down the percentage of people that were nesters versus seekers, and people that were meeting in real life versus people that just wanted to have a cyber affair and that was enough for them. So we absolutely look at this stuff. And I think that, the pandemic was a huge turning point for a lot of relationships. And that's why, again, you saw spikes in divorces in so many places. But then again, I do think it's worth noting that it did make couples stronger for those that chose to stay together. I think a lot of people did come out the other side, but I think for those people, they are really starting to look at their monogamy agreement. And it's like, you renew your driver's license every few years. There's so many things that you renew, but people sort of make these vows when they get married and then don't ever really talk about them again and what they mean, right? And we changed so much in that time. So I think that we like to call ourselves, and you're going to laugh, but we like to call ourselves the world's best marriage counselor, because we ultimately know what people aren't getting in their marriage. And we know that through data, we know that anecdotally through talking to them. So I think, what we hear is a lot of people want to be open with their partner. They actually want to have these conversations. They actually want to tell their partner, hey, I'm not getting this. I'd like to try this. I really wish we can do this. But it's intimidating. A lot of people don't know how to initiate those conversations, or maybe they've tried and it didn't really land the way they wanted it to. So I think that over the next few years, like coming out of COVID, I do think we're going to start seeing more and more couples sort of begin to have those conversations. I think also when we talk about different generations, Gen Z, they're going to be much more comfortable, again, like having those conversations around monogamy, because I think they're less traditional, right? And they might have seen a lot of their parents get divorced or, have it not work out. So they're going to want to do things differently. I think same with the younger millennials. But I do think that's kind of where we're headed. for sure.
You spoke about, and this was exactly where I wanted to go. You spoke about that you guys kind of think of yourselves as the world's biggest marriage counselor. So is there something that you guys offer in Ashley Madison within the inner workings that maybe there's a couple, right? And they both have signed up, maybe together, or somehow they know that they're both there. Is there something that you guys offer that maybe like help them say, well, what you've been looking for over here, your partner wants to now make sure that they can help get you to that? I don't know if that's something that you guys offer.
That's a great idea, though.
Well, just call me because I want to be in there when you guys come up with the name, and I want to be a part of it. I'm all about Ashley Madison now, just so I wasn't before, but I know I've learned something. I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm in it.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. No, of course, we do work with a lot, like I said, a lot of couples therapists and experts and, like I said, academics. And we have things like newsletters that we send out to members, and so there are things like that in terms of resources that we offer for sure. Just, different articles we send our members and things like that. But no, I think you're onto something. I like this idea.
Is it tracked, like the outcomes of this? I mean, how much more often than not does it lead to a happier marriage versus an actual divorce and a split?
Yeah, I think there's no two situations are alike. And again, I've learned that in speaking to people. We've had, probably one of the more interesting stories that I've heard from members on our site is there were two people that met on the site. They were both married. They actually ended up leaving their partners for each other. They got married. And then I think it was 6 years into their marriage that they were both sort of feeling that urge to step outside, but they didn't want to do it in secret. So they decided to open up their marriage, and they both went back on Ashley Madison as a married couple and met other people to outsource those needs, which I think that's a real full circle moment, I think. But yeah, I think there are people that, their time on Ashley Madison ultimately made their relationship stronger. And I know people sort of, they hear that and it doesn't really make a whole lot. It doesn't seem like it makes a whole lot of sense. But I think a lot of times people sort of learn about their sexual desires and needs sort of actually like away from their primary partner. It's almost like there's too much familiarity and comfort sometimes at home for them to explore that. And then so when they explore it outside of that relationship, they can almost bring that back into the marriage. Like they've almost learned more about what they like and what they need. So now they can communicate that better. So in that way, I think we've had people say like, it's made my sex life at home with my partner better. And that's kind of like what I needed from it. Right. And so those people, stay married. And again, there are a lot of people that are in more don't ask, don't tell. So, and in that way too, again, it could make their sex life with their partner better, right? Because it's sort of it's a bit of this, again, this mystery, and they're also, again, they're getting what they need from different places. So they're not really, there's no resentment. There's no, they don't feel like they're missing out on anything. So that's when we say it can almost help preserve that relationship long term, because they're not always left wondering. But yeah, again, a lot of open couples, but what I think is really interesting about the open relationships is they don't tell people in their life that they're in an open relationship. So they're open with each other, but they still want discretion, which is why they join Ashley Madison, because they don't want to just go on any dating site where they could see people they know. They actually want to keep that open relationship between the two of them. So I do wonder if that's going to change as well as sort of society becomes more open to non-monogamy and non-traditional relationships. If people that are in open relationships will still be more discreet about it.
Right.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I know I got to let you go soon, but we've talked about male, female. We've talked about different generations. Do you guys have the data on nationalities? Like, are there like big differences in like, say, brown people, black people,
Hispanic? Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, to be honest, first and foremost, I really want to know how many brothers was on the site. That's what I really want to know. So look, if I go out there, I don't run into none of my boys. Be like, hey, I'm out here, like it's just me. No, I'm playing. But like, do you have like, a nationality breakdown more so that you see?
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but we're global, right? So we're actually in more than 15 different languages. We're in more than 50 countries. I've traveled to so many places, which has been really cool. So and so I would definitely say again, like we're like infidelity is universal. Like this, I know sort of people, I think are shocked to know that we've been around for so long, but and I think again, people are shocked to know that like the site thrived during the pandemic. Like that's surprising people. People are shocked to know, wow, you're in more than 15 different languages and 50, like, we have, we just, we're, more than 70 million globally. Like we're 200,000 people signing up a day. Like the numbers are huge. And so I definitely think that, and we see those differences, like in terms of different countries, we see like the different gender breakdowns, right? And it tells you a lot of culturally about what's going on too, right? In countries that are a bit more conservative or a bit more religious, maybe we actually do tend to see a lot of membership. So it's almost like, I think those breakdowns, and a lot of those breakdowns are in our annual reports that I referenced, are really fascinating. It's really interesting.
So in terms of nationality, who's the most interesting or interested in websites like Ashley Madison?
Yeah, so we're a Canadian website. So I would, again, our biggest market, I guess, internationally would be the US, but that's sort of considered.
She just act like we just over here cheating. We just over here cheating all day. We don't got nothing else to do over here. In the US.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I would say outside of North America, our biggest market is Brazil. So Brazil, and like I said, twice as many women than men on the site. So
yeah, I just looked up tickets over there. Tickets are not that much to get to Brazil either. I think I got to go over there to DJ or something. I think somebody hit me about a date over there. We were looking up tickets. I was paying attention, but I had to look up tickets to Brazil while you were telling us about Brazil. I don't know what the party is, or I don't even know if we've even come up with the event yet, but I got to go to Brazil. I just know that.
Yeah. We have to go brainstorm. We have to go to do a brainstorming session, a creative session.
You know what? You know what I think is a cool idea? Do you guys have like Ashley Madison like events? Like, they would have to be in secret, huh? They would have to be discreet.
That it was just gonna say that would be the only part. There have to be like a masquerade ball.
Ooh, that would not be a bad one.
Look, see, Carolina's into these things. She just don't want nobody to know she's there.
But still, here comes, okay? This is it.
I'm working on that event. I love that.
No, look, man.
I don't want this to end.
No, I appreciate you taking the time, and I think that there's so much more to even explore in this topic, which is why I'm even glad that we got to talk. So what's next though for you guys? Like I know that you guys have so much going on. You guys are steadily growing, and you guys are legal now. Happy 21st birthday! You guys are legal now and all that good stuff. Like
we can go drinking in Miami.
Exactly. So what do you see next as it's your job, as your job keeps turning and evolving? What do you see next for Ashley Madison?
Yeah, so we're getting set to release the Future of Non-Monogamy report, which is really exciting report that we just completed. So I will say next for us is just, I think, two things: exploring a bit more, like I said, the broader non-monogamy space, because I do think that's where we're headed. And then I think it's always really telling to sort of like get the sense of the next generation. So for so long it was obviously millennials, and I think that next generation's being ushered in. So how are they going to look at monogamy differently, right? And what are they looking for? And are they interested in marriage and all of that? So we're really, really interested in those two areas right now.
I'd like to do this. I do this oftentimes because I think, first of all, your job is, one that somebody's not going to hear about every day. I mean, a lot of people don't. A lot of the younger kids, I would say, right? They hear about publicists or this director or that director or whatever, right? And I think that your job is one of those that you'd be like, how did she get that job? So if you could tell, like younger you or seventh grader right now, it's like I have this idea of a job, but they don't know. Like you said, you weren't sure. Like this would be something, but you tried it. If you could give that younger person a bit of advice, like what would you tell them?
I would definitely say, always take the meeting, like always take the call, take the coffee, like always, even if something at first glance doesn't seem like something you'd be good at or something you'd be interested in, or maybe you're intimidated, whatever it is, always just take that first step, that meeting, and learn more. And I think that you just never know, right? You never know where it's going to lead. And I also just, again, like, make those connections when you're young. Again, like, just get out. If you don't know what you want to do, just get out and meet as many people as you can and talk to them about what they love about their job. And because in a lot of ways, I sort of did stumble into this. It is a really unique role, and it wasn't something that I could have ever imagined. Like, I would have never sort of dreamt up this job when I was in middle school. I wouldn't even have known it existed. So I think you just have to sort of like follow your intuition, follow your lead, and never say never, right? And I think that you can go cool places. So yeah.
Her name is... That was insightful. It was. And honestly, like, I think that we need to hear that more. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of this, and I talk to people all the time about this. My biggest thing too right now is that the next generation of creatives, that they hear stories like yours. They hear stories like Carolina's, because I think that if we don't, they're just going to get the pictures and the BS on Instagram, right? When there's so many dope things going, like I said, and what you said it best, you said in the 7th grade, you would have never thought that you'd be here. But it's been like enlightening, and you're meeting people, and you're doing all kinds of things, and you could be just like I am. I don't know if I speak for Carolina here, but I don't know much about Ashley Madison. I just see it, I see an article here, I see an article there, but getting to talk to you today, it's much deeper than just, might be a place I can cheat. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really is, when you talk to us about the research and stuff that you're doing and the great work that you guys are doing over there, I think it's really dope.
It definitely made me look at the website differently, because you always just think, oh, it's a cheating website. And like you said, when you think of those things, you kind of, without thinking, become very judgmental quick. So having that breakdown as to like who's seeking and what's going on, and like that psychology of the background, I think a lot of people miss that. So I agree.
I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
And
okay,
don't,
we all have, yeah.
Go ahead.
And I think I'm just a big believer, like, we all have something to learn from anyone in front of us, right? Like, any person that you meet, like, I think there's just always such an opportunity to learn more. And so I've really enjoyed talking to you guys. You're so fun.
I had a great time. I know now that Jason, we will be booking the Brazil tickets after this. We'll get to that.
Yes. And we're gonna be having the drinks in Miami after. So.
Her name is Isabella Mise. She is the communications director over at Ashley Madison. Where can they find you on social media, if you like to be even found there?
I'm on Twitter at Isabella Mise. And I tweet a lot of fun stuff about if you're interested in learning more about this, I tweet a lot of stuff about that. So great. Okay. Yeah. Again,
I appreciate you being here. Miss Carolina, where can they find you at on social media?
At It's Carolina Live.
She's so Latin, yo. She's so Latin. I just honestly want just the culture. It's just the culture. It's DJ Ekin, man. The DJ Ekin podcast, man. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to listen, man, and follow us, download, subscribe, all that good stuff. Plus on YouTube, it's DJ Ekin TV. Miss Isabella, thank you so much. And if you don't mind, leave your calendar open. Sometime we can talk in the future. I'd like to keep checking in, and I'd like to know where Tampa's moving on this infidelity chart. I don't really care about anywhere else. I just need to know where Tampa moves at, because that way I know if I need to move or not. I don't want to be included in some of these things.
Oh my God.
I will give you a heads up for sure.
For sure. And hey, when you're out this way again, we'll have to have drinks in Miami, Orlando, or wherever you're doing research at. We'll have to have drinks. So thank you again, man. The DJ Ekin podcast, man. I appreciate everybody. And I got to get a guy on this show soon, man. Like, this is 2 weeks of just, of great.
Power.
But you know what it is? I appreciate you both too for being so insightful, because, guys, we're dumb. I admit that we're dumb. We got to listen more, and I'm okay with that. The DJ Ekin podcast, man. I'm gone.